All right, welcome everybody, and welcome to this new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast. Today with you is your usual Indie Diarist, me, Anthony L. Wolf. I'm a content manager and writer. Again, I've introduced myself in yet another different way. I will stick to something at some point, I always say that. And today with me is someone who reached out to be featured on this podcast, and of course, because I love to feature every single voice, I was more than happy to welcome Romain.
Oh, Romain in French.
Romain, but, okay, yeah, I'll just stick to that then, yeah, and stick to what I know, I suppose.
Yes, it's a little bit Parisian in accent.
Oh, right, okay, perfect. Well, over to you, Romain. Tell me a little bit about yourself, who you are, about the game that you've developed, anything like that.
I'm the manager of KnightStudio, who recently reached Mama Die and Retry. It's a little game, a little platformer. I'm not a video indie dev as usual, because I'm a lawyer. I didn't learn code, I didn't learn music, I didn't learn game level. I just did it next to my work, and I think it was a very tough journey, because I didn't know everything about video games. I just want to make a game, a platformer, because I love it. And that's why it's a little bit different maybe for some other indie dev who make devlog, etc. I didn't make that, and just make the game and reach it on Steam, and I think just look what happened when people play to my game.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. You didn't introduce yourself to me that way, definitely. The fact that you were a lawyer, that's an interesting story by itself. Love it. A lot of people start gaming as a side project. Most of them are developers. Of course, they already know what they're doing in other parts of their job, but as far as I know. But for example, I'm a writer, and I developed a few things here and there, started learning how to code. But personally, I'm a writer for my full-time job. So I'm not a developer, I'm not a coder, but I still have a passion as a side hobby, so to speak. But yeah, okay. So, you developed Mama Die and
Retry.
Die and Retry. Yeah, that's a great way to start this episode, by messing up the name of your game. So, I did try that game. It's so lovely, actually, so colorful, and I love the little touches here and there. The story is interesting. Like you play as a mom. And a housewife, I suppose, and you just defeat aliens by hitting them with a broom or something like that. So, tell me a bit more about that. How were you inspired? Where did the inspiration for this game come from?
This game is a tribute to the working class heroes. Because my parents are working class people, and I think it's really important to tribute them with that. And it's my first game. I do it alone. It was a lot of work, of pains, but what a journey. I've learned pixel art, coding, music, etc. And beyond the funny main character, beyond the story, there are one statement: everything is possible if you work for it. And that's why this game is different. It's fun. When I saw children play my game, I saw them just trying to get the next level, but there is something else in my game. When you start the game, you can see some quotes about John Steinbeck, William Faulkner, Albert Camus, Robert Frost. It's about fear and how to defeat destiny. Because today, working class heroes are not heroes, and that's why it's interesting. It's not common in video game to have a working class heroes, and I think, and I assume that's the funny part of the game and the serious part of the game both. And that's why it's interesting on my way, in my point of view.
I have to agree. I mean, yeah, now that you say that, it's very unlikely to see. Well, yeah, Joel in The Last of Us is kind of an everyday person, just a normal person faced with an apocalypse. But it's usually you play as very overpowered characters and whatnot, unless in the indie scene where you can see a bit more human stories, stories about being human and all of that. But yeah, that's a great point. And when you mentioned, I mean, you mentioned to me before the start of this recording that you went to an event, and so a lot of children being happy playing your game. I think, yeah, I can see why, because the style reminds me, now that I think about it, of those demos, platform game demos that I used to play on my computer when I was maybe 9 or 10 or 11, and they were so colorful, so fun, so easy to play because you were just jumping around and defeating enemies. There were maybe some environmental puzzles here and there, but it was mostly that. And your game kind of reminds me that style of that era, the 80s to 90s. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, let's just, well, moving on and making this conversation a bit more general and also even more fun. What's a game you would recommend anyone to play?
Oh, I love Doom. I love Doom because it's efficient. You play and you have fun. That's all. And I love Diablo. Uh, mm, I love League of Legends. So I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who love League of Legends too. So yeah,
I'm so sorry for that. And recently I've played to a little game on Nintendo Switch, Save Me, Mr. Taco. Was the story of an octopus. It's made by a French guy, and it's in Game Boy graphics. So you have a green screen, green people, green character, and it's really, really, really nice. And that's exactly the point with my exactly the same point on my game. It's something in time, lost in time. It's freeze in time. When you play it, you play Game Boy, and that's so cool to find another emotion 20 years later with a new game, but an old school game made in the spirits. And I think it's really, really, really cool to see that today, because when you see AAA, Hogwarts Legacy, all these games are really cool, are so artistic. It's incredible, but they have a lack of spirit, a lack of souls, and I think it's really important today to give something else to the player.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and we'll dive deeper into this later on, because there's a nice part of this episode which is going to be about video games as art, as I mentioned at the beginning. And but there's you mentioned something about finding an emotion years later. So what games do you remember playing growing up? Which were your favorites?
Oh, my favorite was Mario, of course. Mario, the first, clearly the first. When I was six, um, I spent all my day on the first, second, third level, and then never go further. And I was frustrated. I was so angry to never see Bowser, and but you play, you spend all your day on that, and that's why Mario is so cool. A child who was 6 years old, who can play all the day the same level and never give up, and that's why it's a success. And when I was younger, I was playing Final Fantasy VII. I love this game. I love the right,
Yeah.
the scenario is incredible. Uh, and when I discover Final Fantasy VI, I was
Well, I heard great things about that. So, well, when I was when I was younger, I think even though I love a lot of Final Fantasy games, I think the seventh is one of my favorites. But because I'm like personally emotionally attached to it, it was the first Final Fantasy I played. My uncle played it a lot, and so I approached the world of Final Fantasy by looking at my uncle playing Final Fantasy games. And my uncle is very much into games still now. I mean, he just bought a PS5. So yeah, that's but yeah, so that was my very first Final Fantasy, and then I played every Final Fantasy from then onwards. Although I've heard great things about Final Fantasy VI, and sooner or later I'm going to play it because I know that it has one of the best villains ever, and as a writer, I need to look into that.
But on my point of view, it's not the better. The better is the fourth, because you have an hero, Cecil. When you start the game, he's bad, and he became good, and that's really interesting. It's not common in the video game to have that.
I see. Okay, right. Yeah.
Especially in RPG, and when you play Cecil, you are a dark warrior, and on turning point of the history, you become a paladin, and that's incredible to see the transformation.
Exactly, and also it wasn't common for that time, wasn't it? Like you wouldn't see this kind of narrative arc in a lot of games. So yeah, but like okay, so going back to what you said about being a lawyer and into game dev, it's interesting, that thing. I'm curious about the transition. When did you realize you wanted to be a game developer? Like personally, I had an aha moment when I realized I wanted to be a writer. I guess everybody has that. What was yours?
As I say, my parents are working class people, and I was good at school, and so when you come from the bottom, you have to study it if you want to succeed in life, and generally it's law or medicine, and that's all. And so I take my law degree, and but I didn't like it. I won't. Yes, I wouldn't care of people matters like marriage, divorce. I don't care about it. So that's not
in the nicest way possible, of course. Yes.
Yes, that's not my point. And I decided to create something else. So I start to working on Mama, and my parents are not rich, and I have to work besides to finance my life, to have money to live. And when 1 year, 1 year ago, 1 year, well, yes, 1 year ago, when I will to reach Mama and to release Mama on Steam, something, the life punched me, because I have learned I have a cancer, and that's why when I get the cure, after the cure, I said I cannot continue to be a lawyer. I don't care about it. It's not possible. You cannot fight against. You cannot have this battle and returning to the same point as a lawyer. So I like Texas all in. Like poker, Texas Hold'em. I made all in, and I was so proud of it, but I'm so scared because I have no revenue. I try it with my game. I'm a little people in the ocean of indie dev, and they have their community, they have their studio. It's a little bit hard, but I think it's the right place to be.
I think is correct me if I'm wrong, but is Mama Die and Retry your first game?
Yes.
Well, I think it's impressive for a first game. You definitely nailed the art style and the feel and all of that. So, well, you know, a lot of people don't necessarily reach success with their very first game. I'm sure you'll have still plenty to say, especially because you come from that working class and you have that working class angle that you really deeply care about. I think there are a lot of stories that you will be able to tell in the near future. So yeah, well, but I think you can we can talk about what's coming next later. But now I'm curious about what is your biggest source of inspiration when you develop something or when you just work on a game?
I love reading, so I have a lot of books, over 4,000 or 5,000 on my home. Um, and I will always talk about working class. I made a game because I cannot write a book. That's why I made the game.
Okay.
So I hope someday I
But
will be able to tell a story, but
uh-huh.
I can't. So I made a game, and that's an expression way I
Well,
chose.
you mentioned Faulkner,
Yes.
Camus, Proust. I think you mentioned too. So great literary figures in French literature. So how come do you think? How come you think you're not able to write a book? Have you never tried? Just or is it just
Oh,
making games is what you prefer?
I tried a lot, a lot, but it's not efficient, and I think I'm a little bit over ambitious to
Oh,
do
I
that.
see. Okay, okay.
Because when you have read a lot of books, it's amazing to see all other people who can express themselves and express an emotion with their book. How can I do that? I think it's clearly impossible. And when if someday I'll write a book, um, I would like to have the same reaction when Steinbeck writes Grasp of Wrath. It's really impressive to tell something like that. These people who quit their home, they quit their life to live something better, and it's awful, and the end is apocalypse. And when you see that, what an emotion when you read this book. I can I cannot imagine I have the capability to do the same thing with the reader.
Well, that's an interesting thing to say because I think you hit a an interesting point with your game. It's just it feels very personal. It will feel very personal to people if the story comes through and all of that. I think currently, from what I've seen, the story mainly comes through from the copy that you have your Steam page and your marketing copy, but there is that underlying narrative from what I can see already from the beginning of just a normal person defeating aliens. So yeah, I think maybe you're more prone to or more talented to tell things visually. But speaking of visuals and art, why is it that you love video games?
I love the colorful. I love the colors. I think it's really important. I read Kandinsky, Lissitzky for the forms, Malevich. When you saw this art, it's incredible. With some forms and colors, you have a message, and it's incredible. So simple, so efficient. And video games and Mario, for example, green grass, red block, green pipe, brown enemies. It's effective, and you cannot ask for something else. You have all the point on your screen, and that's just amazing to do that. And that's why video games are really interesting. And the choice of the career, I love the 80s. I love the music of the 80s. I love the art, the movies of the 80s. A lot of references are hidden in the game. When you saw in the first level the neon with right boogie, it's
Saw that,
references
yeah.
to Boogie Nights, the movie. When you saw some the light in the first level, it's references to Mega Man X. You have a lot of references on the game. I made this for me as a guide through the development of the game, because I have to. I'm not. I'm not John Romero or John Carmack, and I'm okay with that. It's totally it's clear in my mind. But
I'm not John Romero or John Carmack, and I'm okay with that. I actually love that. So let me just highlight that as a quote that I'm going to put on social media. It's a great passage. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
Go on, please. Yeah, and then actually we're getting into the thick of this episode, and video games as a form of art. But yeah, so well, anyone who knows me personally, has already been bothered by the fact that I've written, well, bothered, more like annoyed by me pestering them with the fact that I've written my dissertation on the aesthetics of video games, and video games is a form of art. When I finished my undergrad, so the argument for video games as an art is popular and one that I agree with. But do you think we're there yet? Like, can we already consider video games as a form of art? Or rather, are people already seeing video games as a form of art, or do you think there's still some work to do?
yes, I cannot understand why you can see video games as an art, because it's like movies. You have music, you have sound design, you have visual, something. You have grammar. It's a grammar. It's like language. If you have a language, it's just like writing something. So it's art. You have an expression, you have an emotion, and again, when I saw children faces when they smile at when they play to my game, I think it's incredible. I love that. I love that. If I can, I will give them the game for free, because it's a really nice thing, and I think it's really important. What's define art is emotion. When you saw the Joconde on Paris, you saw
I saw it.
you saw the Joconde, you saw a woman in a painting, but you saw the Joconde. You have the emotion, the feelings of something. You are just you face off you faced sorry, my English is a little bit rusty today.
Oh no, it's actually perfect. Yeah, no. You mentioned you would have an accent like a frog, but actually, it sounds really great. So don't worry about it. Just go on.
And when you saw the Joconde, you have an emotion, and that's why it's important. That's why it's art, because if you have no emotion, it's not art. It's something of the usual day. When you saw a broom, it's a broom. But when you saw a broom in Mama Day and Retry, it's something else. And the children, when they play to the game, all of them don't stop on the working class tribute. They stop on the broom because it's fun, and they have an emotion with that, and they discover something new with this object, and they don't associate that to something bad. And I think it's really important to change the perception, to change something with your game, and to express something. And that's why it's art. Art is expression. That's all.
It's an interesting way to put it. Like, one thing that you said in your argument is like art is emotion, and I don't think I've heard it put it that way. Yes, I have, definitely, but not so simply. As in, art is something that generates emotion and causes emotion in the watcher, reader, player, whatever. And I think any book you read, if you're learning something as you go and you understand the intent of the artist and the person behind it, it's going to leave you something, and it's going to generate emotions in the reader and all of that. A lot of games are like that. Even if it's just fun, in some cases, it's still an emotion.
Yes.
And it puts together so many things. It puts together storytelling, puts together visual design, and music, sound design, and well, there are a couple senses that it's still not engaging with. Taste, but you don't actually go to a painting and lick it. So I don't think we need to or a book for that matter. So yeah, if cooking can be a form of art, then an expression, why can't video games be it too? So I totally agree.
I think it's important to say that, because it's an industry. It's something important. When you saw a movie like Rocky with Stallone, some people who love author writing movie like The Whale with Brendan Fraser, something well written, well done, well something special. When you see something special on the screen, and you take Rocky with Stallone, it's simple. It's you saw a guy who fighting with in who fighting and struggle with his life, but it's efficient. You have something. You can see something on the screen, and you. It's not because it's a good writing movie. It's not a bad movie. It is, sorry, a bad movie. It's a good movie because some people can grab something on this movie, an emotion, an inspiration, something else, and that's why it's important. You have two point of view about art: the emotion and the work for the emotion, the work of the artist. You have to work to create the emotion, and we forgot that when you saw the Joconde, you forget Da Vinci made it in 10 years of 12. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
the craftsmanship. Yeah,
Yes, the craftsman, it's really important, and that's why that's become art, because when you work, you can transmit your emotion, you can work on your expression, and the expression because become something else and become art. But it's a works who translate an idea to the art, and some people forget that. That's why some action movie, if you want, like Fast and Furious, is so stupid. This movie is stupid, but it works. The movie is the statement, and the idea of the movie is to make something fun with cars. You have something fun
yeah.
with cars on your
And so
screen.
people relate to that, so there's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, totally agree. Well, there's one keyword that you've repeated a few times here, and I'm curious to hear why from you. Like you mentioned that Mario is very efficient. You mentioned that art is efficient in a way. So what do you mean by that? Like I think I know what you mean, but I'd like to hear it from you. Why do you think that something like Mario, for example, is very efficient, and why is efficiency important in art for you?
Because when you read a book, when you analyze the style of the writer, or when you saw a painting, when you saw something about art, when I draw something, I I know I am on the right way when I delete something on my art, when my art becomes simple and efficient. And that's why Mario is really good. There are nothing um, in plus. You have just the game and what make it a good game. Good music, simple, efficacious, efficient, block, uh, enemies, pipes, and nothing else. And that's why it's really impressive. Uh, Something in English, you have an expression. I love it. Less is more.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yeah, because it's exactly what you're describing here. Yeah, less is more. Like quality over quantity, or creating something with simplicity that works because it's just simple and immediate. I can totally relate with that. But you have a very focused approach to art and creating your art and in game development in general. So here's a little bit of a fun question for you. If you had unlimited budget and time, what game would you create?
Oh, that's a really good question. Thank you for that. Uh, what kind of game? I think it's always a platformer. I love that.
All right. Okay.
It's my you can do something in the industry who is important in a business way. You have to earn money to live. To live, but I think it's really important to stay focused on what what is your object, your purpose, and what's defined to you, what is to do something define to yourself. I think it's really important. And if you do something is not matters for you, people don't care because you want to say something to the world is not yours, is not your speaks, it's not your language, it's not your expression. And you cannot create emotion with that. It's so cynical, and that's why it's a really hard question. I think I would like something like Yoshi Island. I love that.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
Uh,
Yoshi Island is so cute. Yeah.
I think it's the next level after Mario because you have a new mechanics, you have eggs, you have something else a little bit tricky, and
Yeah.
the game is really good. And the artist way, the artistic way they have chosen, it's really, really, really cool with these paintings, aquarelle, or something else. I love this game.
Yeah, I mean, like Mario 64, I think when it comes to 2D platformers, Mario 64 is, of course, 3D, but when it comes to 2D platforms, Yoshi's Island is like one of the ultimate forms of platformers out there. It's just beautiful.
Yes.
Love it. Yeah, level design, everything. So, well, I guess we can wrap up now. We're a little bit over the 30-minute mark. So, well, I'm curious at this point, what's next for you? Are we ever going to see maybe, I don't know, a Papadine retry?
No. I have to work to bring the game to the world. I think it's really important because I have to live and I have to buy my food. It's really important. But the next game is, will be less ambitious, more funny, but something I like. I love little animal in Australia. I love the wombat, and I think
Oh, well, like Crash Bandicoot then. Okay.
yes, and I think I'm going to do something with that. But it's important to do something who can express some. Who can express if I choose an animal, a wombat in Australian jungle, I think you have to speak about environmental problems. You have to speak about hunting. You have to speak a lot of things, and that's I will. If the game is less ambitious, I will keep this way. I have something to say, but I assume some people can told me I don't care. It's normal. It's the game.
It's fine. I mean, you have to pay your bills and you have to be make things that work for you. So yeah, it's but maybe a more focused game is going to be, well, not more focused, but like an even simpler game is going to help you out a lot there. So, well, you mentioned at some point you mentioned a French developer. So I'd like to ask you this question: what are some other game devs or games that you admire and you would like maybe other people to follow?
Oh, Christopher Galati for Save Me, Mr. Taco.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's a really nice way to introduce people to Game Boy Arts, and what an emotion, a simple emotion. The game is a journey. It's just like that. We don't ask anything else. And in French developer, you have Le Shadow of the Guilds. I think it's a really good game. I discovered it this week. Alan, it's a concept game about 3D top-down, like old GTAs
Oh, right.
game,
Okay.
and you have to walk. The story is inspired by Philip K. Dick, and the atmosphere, the vibe of the game is incredible. It's so simple. You have a character, you move in the room, and you have to reach a computer to save the humanity. And the game is, again, it's simple. It's just a game, and we love that.
Yeah.
But it expresses something. You can discover something else. You can discover Philip K. Dick. You can discover Lovecraft with that. And I think it's really important to have cross media background in your game, because people have to
Yes.
learn something
So
else.
important. Yeah.
And this week I discovered a visual novel. I don't know this kind of game, and the French guy made Audition Blaze. It's a visual novel who introduces the player to the Odyssey, Iliad for Homer, by Homer, and Télémaque by Fénelon. And I think it's really, really interesting because it's joined Joseph Campbell books about the figure of hero, and it's really nice to see a little child little child to play something with Homer. I think it's incredible. It's a little bit complex than my game.
Also, Homer's stories are like ultimate forms of storytelling. Really, it's just his stories were just classics at this point. So yeah, well, I'm going to note down every single name you said because this sounds very interesting. So probably stuff that I would enjoy myself too. Okay, so well, last question for you. Where can other people find you? And if they do, how can they best support you?
Oh, just try the game, and if they like it, buy it. It's not a very expensive game. It's €5. So I assume that because it's a working class heroes, so it's a working class price.
Love it.
Just today is not a success. If I saw the Steam sales, I can see my mom, my grandparents, my aunt who bought the game, and it's really it's not a success. But I don't care. I'm just happy to see people play my game.
Well, that's a very noble thing to say, and well. It's been great to host you on the podcast, Romain. Really a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope you enjoyed it too because it was such an amazing conversation. Yeah, please follow Romain on socials. Buy his game. I'm going to put all the links to reach him in the description of this episode. So yeah. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you for your time and thank you for your interest for my work. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And so that's a wrap on yet another great episode of the Indie Diarist podcast. Well, great for me because I really enjoyed my talk with Romain. It's interesting. I studied French so many years ago, but there's no way I'm going to say his name right. Sorry, Romain. You've been an amazing guest. Loved having you on the show to discuss everything art and video games and aesthetics and creativity and everything really was beautiful. So, if you enjoyed this episode, please follow Romain on social media and try out his game because it's out now and it's just very fun. You get to whack aliens with a broomstick. So, what can be more fun than that? Please subscribe to the show if you want to hear more stories from the indie game dev community, and of course, tell your friends. Oh yeah, if you're an indie game developer just like Romain, please get in touch. I will be more than happy to consider your request, but I'll probably find a way to just have a chat together and discuss everything games because I love hosting people on the show who have a beautiful story to tell. So, what else to say? Please follow the show on social media. You can find me at the Indie Diarist on Twitter, and that's currently the only way to support the show, but more ways will come in the future. Until next time, guys, I'll speak to you in the next episode of the Indie Diarist.